And here we are. Good afternoon. This is our second official meeting of the Health and Wellness Committee, and we have a quorum. Bonnie Stockwell is here, and Gina Kraus, and Callie Smith, Jim Colligan, and there you are, Lori.
Yeah, they think I'm Allah.
We did think you were Allah, and then someone pointed out that Allah sometimes is disguised as Lori, so.
Whatever.
No, we were gonna say Allah, it's Lori. You knew that was coming, didn't you?
Jerry's there. She's joined us.
I couldn't resist.
And Meg and Amber are here representing the town, and I'm Nancy Green, sitting in this chair today. So everybody welcome, and here we are. Does everybody have the minutes?
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
sorry, the agenda. I
Agenda.
keep saying minutes when I mean to say agenda. So first of all, thank you, Bonnie, for writing the agenda for us. And the first thing we want to do is look over the minutes, because I don't know that everybody's seen them. And we want to approve them, and so I think that everybody should have a copy of them. Lori, do you have a copy of the minutes?
Yes, I do. I do.
I looked them over.
I do too.
So if everybody just takes a minute or two just to kind of briefly go through them, we'll make a formal approval for the minutes in about a minute or two. As soon as, if anybody has any, this is the time now, if anybody has any need to make any additions, subtractions, deletions, whatever, changes in those minutes, now is the time to do it.
Thank you, Jessica, for writing them up. And I made a couple of tweaks, but as you saw, and I see that you incorporated them, and I appreciate that.
After looking through them, I'd like to make a motion to accept the January 17th, 2025 Health and Wellness Committee meeting minutes.
Second.
Second? Okay. The next item
Oh,
on.
you got to vote on that. So now if you get the second, we call it to a vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any nays? Okay, so we have actually committee members, we have 5 in the room, right? And we have 6 with Lori. That's it. So it's a 6-0 vote, right?
I just wanted to change the order a little bit of the agenda and move to item number 7 before we get to number 3. Number 7 is discussing the committee composition, just so that we're clear on who is now on the committee, and also to talk a little bit about the difference between the committee and the subcommittee. Trish was originally part of the subcommittee, and she is now part of the committee. And Trish is not here today, but just so that everybody is aware of that she's now a member of the committee. In terms of subcommittee, just so that we're all clear on what that means, because I wasn't clear, so a lot of us are new, Jim is not, to being part of the town. But what it means for subcommittee members is that they are kind of ad hoc people who we will call upon when we need them. They will not have a town email, as we have a town email. And when we have meetings with them, we can use other access. How's that sound, Meg?
Yeah.
Okay, if you have anything to add, please do.
Yeah, it's so that you can pull people in for different tasks at different times, so you don't have to have some standing subcommittee. If you can make them as you need them for different objectives, so it gives more flexibility. And then this makes it more official for Trish to be part of the group.
Right, and for example, for Terry, who we know you have a million other responsibilities, so that you don't have to be present for all of our meetings. If you're available, that's great, and when we need you, we'll have other meetings with you, but you're there at whenever you can do it, at your pleasure or at your ability.
Thank you.
One thing that that does do by taking on an eighth member is it puts the onus on us to have a minimum of 5 people present, for a meeting. When we were at 7, we only needed 4. So it does add that extra burden on the committee, make sure we have 5 people either physically present here or on Zoom to be an official meeting. So I just want to make that clear, because 50%, you have to have above 50%, and to get that, we need the 5th member.
We were able to keep it at 7 by having Lori be ex officio because she works for the town.
Okay,
So she's like a liaison or a consultant for the committee, sort of. And
All
then
right.
same thing for Alla. So, we can have 7, but then the people who work for the town
All
are
right, so
also
that-
part of the committee, but not necessarily your quorum.
Oh, that's perfect.
all right,
That's
so
great.
that's even better.
And I wanted to say that I think the fact that Trish speaks Spanish fluently is a great asset to the committee, because we've been talking about that as a priority for us. So, and I wanted to add on this topic that I've been in touch with Natasha Stowe, who's here, in the guest gallery, I guess you call it. She has expressed an interest in also becoming a member of the subcommittee. And so I think part of our task is to grow the subcommittee
Yes, yes.
so that we have we sort of support well.
How does it work? I know you had stressed the importance of using our work email for all of this. So with the subcommittees, them not having a town email, how does that all play out?
You guys would use your town email, and then they would provide you the email that they wanted us to use.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And we could include them in communications as needed,
Yeah.
but with their private email. Okay, that's great.
For whatever that task is that you guys are working.
Okay.
All right. I talked to the 3 clergy on the island, and they are all interested in being in the subcommittee. And they all have counseling experience. And 2 of them are getting some kind of mental health degree right now, Stephen and Charlie. So they may be, I think, assets. They also do counseling.
That's good.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we reach out to them, Lori, or do you want to do that? And
Yeah, do we have to have it on a letter or, something pretty formal or?
I'll draft an email and send it to you, and you can
Okay,
tweak it, and then,
So we can keep an internal list of people who are interested in helping, and maybe what their qualifications are or what their interests are. And then if we have a topic that comes up that we think they would be interested in, we can send them an email, hey, this is what we're working on, we thought that this might be something you'd be interested in, do you wanna help with that? So maybe we can keep like a running list, and we can keep it internal on SharePoint just for us. And that way, if we have people who come up to, hey, I'd really be interested in working with you on, physical fitness or
Yeah.
working, we can add them to the list and do it super topically and
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, by the way.
Yeah, and then we
Yeah,
have
good.
a group we can email blast if we have something
Right.
coming up that we need help with.
Yes, I think that's a great idea.
Okay. Next item is the town webpage. First question. Everybody's on so
Yeah.
far? Trish, we got an email from Trish this morning that said that she's not on yet. So we need to get her on.
We'll get her with Kevin, the team.
Okay. Okay, yeah, Kevin was helpful for me because I was having a not fun time getting on.
It could be tricky.
Yes, yes.
sorry, I just want to suggest, and I've already spoken with Jessica about this, but maybe we need a tutorial on how best to, use the webpage efficiently. And I've spent a lot of time poking around, and it's a steep learning curve for me. So maybe we can arrange that. Okay.
I spent a lot of time the last couple of weeks navigating it, and I think I have it now, but we'll see. So we did want to talk about what is on the webpage. I mean, one of the things that I saw, for example, is that what Callie wrote is not there. And your wellness piece, we want to get that on the webpage
I
as
was
well.
wondering, I didn't see the tabs.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's there.
No, it's not right now. I'm gonna pull it up, and the way it's listed, Jessica has listed the documents as PDFs, and they're Nancy's articles and the substance use recovery resources that I took off the back of the program for the overdose awareness. So maybe we need a protocol for how to send things to Jessica.
And we send them to you and then you send them to Kevin, is that right?
Yeah, well, there's 3 people that do join the site.
Okay.
So if we send them to Jessica, then she can pass them on to the person who can put them in this list. So, I would maybe suggest making folders, so we don't have a huge list that's sort of disaggregated. So we put all the articles for certain, that are around certain topics together,
Together.
group them together.
Mhm.
You know, we don't have to worry about that now, because we only have a dozen or so, but when
we
you
do,
get.
yes, when we do, we might have a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Nancy, backing up to Kevin's tutorial type of thing, getting the word out, and
Yes.
making it a little easier for all committee members. Are we inviting him to our next meeting, which would be in May, or are we doing something beforehand? Just as a point of clarification, are we coming in separately to get a tutorial, or should we just have him come in at the May meeting and start off with Kevin giving a 5, 10-minute, 15-minute of that meeting to help us, you know?
End of the meeting.
Yes.
End of our meeting.
Yes.
Yeah,
That might be a good idea, yeah.
all right.
Yeah, that's a good
All
idea.
right, so the May meeting, we can ask, if we're gonna start at 1:30, maybe we get everybody on board at 1:15,
Yeah.
and then we have the 15-minute tutorial, okay.
Right.
Just-
What in particular are you looking to get trained in? Because Kevin may not be the best person. It might be Jessica, it might be Christina, it might be Kevin.
Okay,
Right, right.
So is it like how to use SharePoint? Is it emails?
I mean, it's hard because I think we're all at different levels
Yeah.
of
let us get
our
that to you.
knowledge right now.
We have 2 months, so in the
We'll
next,
circulate an email, and
Yes.
everybody can weigh in where they're
Needs.
struggling.
what the greatest needs are, and that's a good point.
For example, yesterday I had a long conversation with Christina, so, you know.
Yes, yeah.
And
Yeah,
I think
the-
too, when I posted this, I went right to Kevin versus Jessica, so I've got to go to you, so that was a little learning curve for me.
Yeah.
Well, I actually like the accident of now having this brain injury brochure right on the page. And it started me thinking last night, every month must have something.
Yes.
And we could have our page be distinguished by having some
Yeah.
brochure at the beginning of each month.
Yes,
that
and-
we choose.
And yes, just to clarify, we weren't expecting the brochure to be right there, but having it there.
He would put it right sentence forward, and I was like, that looks great, good idea.
Well, and then afterwards, then it will go down into that
and then goes into the
document,
document.
and post something new as
Yes,
your highlight
exactly.
for the month.
And there'll be other brain injury stuff that will go along on the tab with that.
In a folder. form.
Yes.
And part of what we can do is talk to the people who manage the website and see what our options are with the layout. Is it just that we can add new categories, like, you know how there's a bar, you can click on it, it says members, you click on it and then you get members. Could we have different headings, so if it's like, you know, brain injury, and then under that would be the brain injury information. We have to just talk to them and see what we can do, how flexible it is.
I guess the other thing we need to do is really publicize this webpage, because unlike some of the other committees on the island, this is really a webpage for everybody, you know, with information for everybody. And we have to figure out how
Well,
to,
the social media could have a link, and it's been great Terry at the library, thank you so much for everything you did to get the word out this month.
You're welcome.
And the town also, I saw a posting of the brochure yesterday, so
Yeah.
it's great. And maybe we could just put a link to the committee page on everything that comes from us, and that'll drive people to the page.
and a little shout out to Elizabeth Larson for,
Yeah, amazing job.
Amazing job.
Amazing job.
for a really
Yeah.
beautiful brochure.
Oh, very formal, Elizabeth.
Yeah, and like that, I mean, I was like, wow, wow, it's beautiful. So
Family talent.
well, I hope she'll be up for one a month. Something like that.
We'll talk. There might have to be cookies involved. I don't know.
Okay, cookies.
But too, this is just exactly how we envisioned us working with the library, working with other constituents in the community. Beautiful, so thank you.
Do we know what April month is?
I took a look last night. I think that there is a list of very, important topics. So I thought maybe that would be part of what we do, decide each month, choose from 3.
Yeah.
that are really,
Yeah.
meaningful.
But I think what this also gives an idea for July for the Parkinson's to do a focus on that, so a little.
Yeah, maybe we can talk briefly about how,
Well, that's-
oh, that's the next topic, right? Yeah, go ahead.
Nice segue.
Right, you got us there. Yes.
We've had a couple of meetings about brain injury awareness, and what we decided with the help from Terry is that rather than rush a program now in March, to wait until July when we can have a program under the tent and really have an expansive kind of program and really take the time to plan it. And
And July 22nd.
Is that the actual date? I don't have the date.
International Brain Day.
Oh, is it?
22nd, yeah.
My wife's birthday.
So
I knew there was something there with that.
right, well, we knew she was brain.
Lori came up with the
I go there.
idea of making it really a more inclusive kind of topic.
What do they refer to that as, a national, is it?
International.
International Brain Writer.
Yes, yes.
And you also mentioned that, since it's Brain Day, we could have practitioners around brain, preserving brain function. We could have, it would be a broader kind of discussion, including different, both positive and challenging
And
sides.
speakers who have come through it,
Right, exactly.
the survivors themselves who have come through it and really want to share their experiences.
So we're going to be working on that.
Yes.
Yeah, I think too, a caregiver piece too, having maybe a couple of caregivers contribute to it. It's important because they're very vital in this situation.
Good point.
So as a fallback, we worked with Terry on putting together the brochure and having a social media campaign about Brain Injury Month, which is March. And, so as Jean said, it worked out.
Yeah.
We had 2 meetings, and through the discussion, we ended up doing what was feasible for March and having this plan on the docket for July. So,
And we have some good time to plan for it.
Yeah.
And it's also, July is perfect because as soon as that's over, then we can start planning our August program on overdose awareness. So it gives us plenty of time to do both.
I guess you're all aware that there was an injury last week on the island and the man is in Stony Brook right now. A bicycle accident.
I saw that. I happened to
Yeah.
drive up to that intersection when it happened.
Yeah, he's gonna be all right, though. It was a real scare. I think he had a double brain bleed, a couple of spots in the brain where it was bleeding, but I think it's under control, and I don't think.
It is. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, could have been a catastrophe.
The lesson there, and it can be for the kids and for everyone, is you got to wear a helmet when you're riding a bike.
Yeah,
He didn't
that,
have it.
yeah.
He wasn't.
And you gotta approach, 4-way stops are interesting around the island. Bicycles, just bicycles, especially coming down hills, because people don't wanna, if you're driving a bicycle, you got momentum and by the way, not every one of these 4-way corners have great visibility. And it just so happens that that particular corner, on the southwest corner, you have some hedges there that don't make it as nice as on the golf course side or on the old bank side, the restaurant side. So where you have open visibility, where you can see cars coming into an intersection, from 7,500 feet back, or further. It just so happens that's a dangerous situation. Somebody heading north there and somebody coming down the hill, the visibility is suspect.
It was a bad time.
Not all cars really stop.
Right.
Stops.
And that's true. I mean, it's.
There was an incident last summer of somebody who was coming off South Ferry
Yeah.
and was seen and was still hit.
I'll say one thing, the town, just to give a nice applause to the highway department, has done a nice job in certain areas of the island, increasing visibility for drivers. Again, this time of the year is not a high, you know,
Traffic season.
traffic season, when you get to June, July, August, September, you know, these kind of things, there's a lot more cars on the road, a lot more bikes, a lot more joggers, hiking, you know, just people out walking, and it's, you know, these are problem areas because the visibility is not the best it could be, you know?
Also, the time of day matters, because
It
I
does.
happened to drive up, and this was just when the sun was coming down,
Yeah.
really bright over the hill,
Yeah.
and I had like gone way slower and put my visor down. So maybe there's some public safety reminder to people, you know, about these hazards.
And part of the program will be prevention.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, I think that's where the emphasis should really be.
Also, they say there's an increase in accidents after the time change.
That's right.
There's a significant percentage of accidents, car accidents that happen. But also, is it possible for a reminder from the police about also that bicycle safety? Like I see bicycle riders and walkers on the wrong side of the road, you know, flowing with
Yeah.
the traffic, walking against the
With
traffic.
the strollers going on the wrong side of the
Is that
road.
me?
No, not you, Gina, believe me, I'm monitoring you.
But again, in connection with that, maybe they
It's a
can post a
constant.
reminder of
Yeah.
safety when walking, when riding a bike.
You know what, I often thought of, on the police car, they had a little, a thing that when they're driving and people are jogging with the traffic or walking with the traffic, especially at these hours where, you know, it's dusk and everything, you know, you can't get out of the way, you can't see, you don't have eyes behind your head. Please move to the other side of the road, and just as a reminder, you wouldn't even have to get out of the car. You would just see these things, and, you know, I've done it once or twice, but I could have done it 200 times in the last year where people are on the wrong side of the road, you know, and it's an accident, a potential accident ready to happen. But I think, you know, for a police officer would carry so much more weight, just as, you know, we need you to behave that way. And I often said, I proposed it years ago when I was on the town board, at both ferries, a sign that simply says, "Welcome to Shelter Island," and it's got the, you know, when to be on the right side with traffic and when to be against traffic. It's just got, please be safe.
It's a great
But
idea.
you come off the ferries,
Yes.
particularly for the bike clubs that come over,
Right.
you know.
They're coming from the South Fork and, you
Yeah,
know.
it's an ounce of prevention to remind everybody to.
I see that the reporter last year seemed to do a couple of ads in there, yeah, which I thought was great.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we should have a table at the Brain Day event, that we have a pamphlet and maybe a police officer interacting with people about this. You know, this
We'll have
falls
we'll have
under
our
that,
pamphlets.
you know?
So it seems that having a table, just like we have tables at the other event,
Yeah.
having
Yeah.
a table would,
Right.
it makes a lot of sense. It's a great idea.
Okay.
Some of it with walkers, some of it's sort of common sense, but it's not always safest to be going against traffic if you're on a blind curve and you're on
Yes.
the inside
That
of the
is
truck.
true.
And then you cross.
You
That's right.
can't.
Wade
No one
Beach
can
is a
see you
perfect
until-
example.
Wade Beach is the perfect
Perfect
example
example,
of
where
the
you
most
live.
dangerous.
Okay.
When you get to the top of that hill and you can see in both directions, cross the street,
Yes,
go
That's
down the
what-
hill, go around the safe side of the turn where
You're
everyone
right.
can see you, go up to the next top hill and then
Right.
cross back over. It kills me every time, because you'll come around the turn going slow and there's three people walking the width of the road in the middle of the road and you're on sand, so stopping short is not gonna happen. Sorry, that's just my moment.
Yeah, you're-
I see it all the time in the summer, you crawl around that turn because you never know who's on the inside and the
Correct.
side, and it's so
there's
dangerous.
nowhere to go.
No,
And look, you clearly dive into the
those
book.
trees don't move.
Yeah.
And newcomers driving don't have any
They have no
idea,
clue.
and they come tearing around,
Yeah.
it's just a recipe for
And that's a good point, though.
And then there's that huge wall hedge, I mean,
Yeah.
you just have to make sure you're always in line of sight of everybody around you
Right.
when you're walking. I mean, it's just the safest way.
Yes.
I mean,
But this can be a good,
There's
Topic for us.
this could be
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
June topic.
There's just a ton of distracted drivers too, that are on their phones, and they're not pulling over. I do see more people that do pull over when they get a phone call and stuff, and it looks like they're answering a phone call or getting a message from somebody.
That's because they're afraid of hitting a deer, not a person.
But I also
I
have
got
to
one
stop in
for the
the
first
middle of
time in
the road
18
to
years,
do
I
that
got
instead of
one.
pulling over.
Yeah.
Broad daylight, 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Broad daylight, huh? Yeah.
Right in front of Mashonic. And it was going down the South Ferry to buy some tickets, and the first one there were two hunters on the right side, on the west side of the road that were looking at two deer and chased them out of the woods because they came up right behind me and said, oh, I'm sorry, that, but the second one hit the bumper and made it, and then a northbound car went over it.
Wow.
That killed it right there. So I didn't stop, by the way, just kept going. Like it.
And just when we go back to the item on the agenda, I included the outcomes because I wanted to get us all thinking about how we measure the impact of what we're doing. And this was a very low touch month where we were just starting and we were, getting our bearings. But I hope going forward, there's some way, either through looking at the clicks on the social media or email blasts, or looking at, asking people, having conversations with people, what have you been thinking about the outreach, to get some sense of how it's working.
Whether there's some impact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what we could do better.
Yes,
to-
yes. Of course, that takes us to the next topic, but Gina, before we move on, just to make sure that we've said everything we want to say about the program and where we're going with it. I think our plan is we're going to break into a smaller group for those of us who are more involved in planning this program. And we want to start planning it quickly, because we know that these things take time.
Yep.
In the needs assessment or the?
No,
brain dead?
still
Oh, okay.
the brain injury, we're still,
Okay.
talking about that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll take
I was
it.
still on that too, by the way. I just want to be clear.
I know you were,
Yeah.
because I see outcomes right there.
Yeah, okay, good. But, sorry, I just think that these programs that we're planning, they do better when we take our time with them. So should we maybe agree now to have at least once a month in the short term, touch on
I think
this?
first we're going to want to identify who's going to be on the group, who's going to be part of the group that is involved in this program.
Yeah.
And then we can start meeting.
Yeah.
And we might have some.
I think it may take more than, but it takes several meetings if we're going to do it right, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, think of how many meetings we have for all the programs.
Right.
Toward the end, they end up being twice a week.
Right.
So we should aim though in the next month to meet again,
Yes.
to just start working on putting it together.
Right,
Okay.
right. And also, we're going to be doing these two things concurrently, so it's going to be a lot of activity, bringing us to the next topic, which is the needs assessment. And we had a meeting with John Morse, who Lori discovered, thank you, Lori, who is a sociologist and a market researcher for 40 years. He owns his own company, and we had a meeting with him on Zoom, and he was absolutely incredibly helpful. So, and Bonnie wrote up some great notes. So, and Bonnie has been the person organizing this, so can you talk to us about it?
Sure. I want to add that he is just a prince of a man. I mean, he's just wonderful.
Very lucky,
We
very
feel
lucky.
so lucky. Thank you, Lori. Thank you. He is,
He's a good guy.
and he's agreed to work with us. We are going to try to meet every 2 weeks to really keep on track with this project. So he has started and runs a company that does this professionally in the media realm. And he outlined 3 primary stages of a well-designed community needs assessment. The first is to look at what he called what's on the shelf, which is the work that's been done recently in other places that has some application. So we'll be looking at, I started working on this and we have several people looking at it. We'll be looking for data that's relevant to our community. And I'm happy to report that there's been a Suffolk County Community Health Assessment project in '22 that I think is really useful. It has a great write-up. We'll be able to use pieces of that. But if anyone has any ideas about data work, research that's already been done that would be relevant, keep that in mind, let us know.
Jim, some of the stuff that you, I'm assuming that what you wrote, the focus group interviews, that was some research that you did?
Yes,
Yes.
yeah.
So I've got that here. You want to just?
No, I mean, to be honest, I haven't really looked at it since I
Since
left.
you wrote it. Okay, well, I've looked at it. You've done some, it looks like you've done some good research.
Yeah, I did that before leaving, and,
I know your brain is still scrambled.
no, it
Well,
needs a
I think you
refresher.
listed the comprehensive plan, right, as one
Right.
of those.
Yeah,
the
comprehensive plan is one,
Pretty involved
yeah.
in that, right?
Meg's got a few great
I
things.
didn't know where
Yeah.
else I didn't know where else you would get data unless Lori, if the senior center does any kind of surveying or.
Census data.
Yeah, I did a windshield survey when I first came out, and it's about 2 pages. That's just, just driving around, making some visits, and it's very cursory, but, I'm willing to share what I have.
Great.
With census data?
Yeah, I have census data, that the comp plan, and then Suffolk County's done some studies that we can use, so we have some basic stuff. It's hard to find really good statistical data for Shelter Island because we're so small. Not many people spend time on us, like for Suffolk County, they'll do mostly west of us, but it still has some very good information.
Yes, and it's interesting to see how they organized and also the qualitative results, how they interpreted them. I mean, there's a lot to learn
It's very
from this,
helpful.
so I'm excited about working on that. And then he said that the second phase is the one that we'd already begun working on, which was identifying stakeholder groups that we would conduct a focus group. And he said you could do one-on-one interviews when it was more beneficial. But what I thought most interesting about what he said is we could use our room as a sampling of the community, and we would get about 90% of what will come out of this broader survey. But it's that 10% that comes as a surprise and that ends up being really important. That's what makes this such a worthy enterprise, is to really kind of take the time to listen and, ascertain what's happening. And then the third stage is when you test the frequency of the issues that have come up in this process. And he said that's done by a survey, and it's best delivered to every adult, just anonymous. But that requires some careful construction. You want to ask the right questions, and you want to. So, and he said that, this process usually takes anywhere from like 4 to 6 months, but he said we're volunteers, so we can expect it to maybe take a little more time. We've taken next steps. Basically, we have a meeting coming up Monday morning at 11 that I've extended to everyone, on the committee. And if you want to propose anyone else to include, we're going to, carry this forward with him
Is that via Zoom?
via Zoom.
And I have a letter from our committee, a letter to the editor, which will be going out to the community, just talking about that we'll be doing this, deciding to do it as a, Julie, I'm doing this as a letter to the editor because everybody reads the letters to the editor. So just to make sure that it gets read.
I read yours every week.
I do too, Julie.
Julie, I still read it.
Julie, while you're here, I have to commend you on the amazing COVID, review article this week, because our committee came out of COVID and we really believe in the importance of processing and reviewing and narrating what happened. And I think it's a great start, your
Well,
piece.
we have a lot more coming. We're going to initially do 3 pieces and then go back later in the spring, because I want to talk to some of the businesses who survived and how, and what happened to those that didn't survive, what help would they have needed to have made it. And we're open to other ideas, but people have been very generous in contributing material. The next piece is going to deal with a lot of material that's been sent to me by Lori in terms of the senior community and its effect. And we're also going to be talking with the people who put together that food service for nurses and who were
Yeah.
starving to death over in Southampton and Greenport because they didn't have time to get out and get meals in between the treatment that they were dealing with. So we're going to have some of that in the next part. And we think it's running next week. We never know about time, but at least we plan three in a row. And then, as I said, that brief period when we wait for our businesses to come back and see what's doing with them. But any other ideas that you guys have? It's an open-ended kind of series, and we think it's really important. And you're absolutely right. You guys gave birth to it.
Well, we're just, I really have been struggling with, the lack of kind of using what happened to build for the future, just broadly in our culture. And, there are reasons that happens because, it's part of our nature to run from something that was so traumatizing. But I think it's so valuable to really look back and review what happened and look for opportunities to do it better next time. And
I mean, any kind of trauma, often people want to forget.
Yeah.
And, COVID, what was that?
oh, thank you. That was great.
Absolutely.
Just, just thinking about the East End here, not Suffolk County, but the 5 East End towns, knowing what we now offer here in terms of a health and wellness committee. The other 4 East End towns, do they have something, anything like it? Is something similar that they might have, just to be able to identify within the other 4 East End towns, what they might do, what kinds of resources they have, what kind of, do they have an actual committee?
Lori's been actually meeting about that, I think. Am I
Yeah.
right,
Do
Lori?
you have any knowledge on the
Yes,
other East End towns?
yeah. Well, East Hampton and Southampton are pretty together like
Okay.
us.
I figured.
Thanks to Fred Thiel, who brought that together. The North Fork needs help, and I was thinking maybe we could reach out to them to give them a little guidance because they're novices right now and they're trying to organize people. So I think we can lend an awful lot. When I look back, it's amazing what we did. I can't believe the things that happened, and initially it was just like what, 4 of us. And it just grew. It's fabulous, really. But getting back to that, Southampton, East Hampton, pretty good. Ola is also in East Hampton. That's a Hispanic group. They're good. We're trying to get them on the island, but we're still trying. And they are starting to try to reach out also on the North Fork.
That's a good thought, Jim, that as we
Yeah,
kind of pursue this, we can reach out to others.
we're stronger,
Yes.
obviously, I went to an eye doctor appointment in Southold this morning and, routinely always go, but they're closing the office and moving to Riverhead, everything, we think things are coming east, but there's some of it's going back west. Better healthcare in general, on the East End is a goal of all of ours, and, we went through that crisis of maybe not having a doctor at one point, left on the island, and that was something that we don't want to repeat. We want to make sure that, and that got people's attention. If anything got people's attention on this island, it's, Keith Kelton, that when we had no one else, and it seemed as if we weren't even going to have him, that there would be no health care whatsoever, no place that we could go to in terms of, right here on the island, for anything. And that people are concerned about that. So I think, sharing of resources, opening up ideas, I think that's something that would be, and even if we met like once a year, you had representation from the 5 East End towns. And we know enough people in Southold and in Riverhead, the 2 towns that were not mentioned that might have these kinds of committees, to work together, to build a stronger East End health and wellness when they're running fairs. I mean, there's just a lot of commonality that we have, that we share here on the East End, that's unique to Long Island, and it's a strength in numbers, and obviously getting good ideas and sharing ideas with other people, including, like I mean, in August, when we did International Overdose, our thing has grown. It started with 60 people, went to 70, 80, 90, 100, a little over 100 now. That seems to be something that draws people out. I think, a lot of that is Gina's, magic of what she does there in terms of getting new speakers and people like that. That is a success that the committee has had, but we need that on all areas. I see the school, going to drug programs at night. Margaret being on the school board, you're gonna come, so hey, come. There's only 2 parents there. Here's a meaningful speaker that has a lot to say about a topic that you can learn from, and nobody's there. We've got to take more of an investment in our youth and our kids. We have to set a better example as adults, for kids. We've got to be willing to, be part of their lives, and I'm just looking through my grandkids' eyes and, and what they look like in terms of headphones and iPhones, and, there's a lack of dialogue, there's a lack of, we don't eat dinner, as a family anymore. We don't discuss, we don't open up to one another. That was routine, and we all ate dinner together. We, on the weekends, had breakfast together, we had lunch together. You don't see that happening anymore, and I'm just concerned about that.
We have a lot of work to do.
We have a lot of work, a lot of challenges.
Lori, can I just go back to something that you said? You said we reached out to Ola. Is that on behalf of the seniors, or who actually did reach out to Ola?
Steve Sachs and Lori Finelli, we invited them, and then I went to one of their meetings, and, they were very receptive. They want us to go to them, but nobody came over, and we didn't, and we invited everybody, the Hispanic guys on the island, the guys that play basketball with Steve, and the ones that I meet in Maria's, and nobody came. And I don't, and it was an evening thing. Maybe timing was not good, but I don't know what is really good. And I really think that we need a Hispanic person on our committee to kind of open the door a little bit for us.
I think too, that's the hard part, like, why did people not show up to that? Like, once we find out what the needs are, that's the biggest challenge, is how do we reach the people that need it? How do we bring the education to them, the awareness? How do we get them to come out, right? It's not serving you if only 2 people show up or nobody shows up.
Especially-
There's a need.
Yeah, especially in our climate. I was in the school and teachers were not willing to even write whether there were any Hispanic children in their classrooms. They would not give that information, and rightfully so.
Oh, because
So,
of.
yeah, so
wanting to
people,
hear that.
in this climate are not going to want to come out.
Yeah.
There's more implications in that,
Right.
so.
A lot of reservations.
Something else to think about.
If we can help, if we can try to identify key people who do have the trust of the community and who do, are leaders in the community, and kind of work with them to, mobilize people, maybe.
Julie, you wrote that did you write that article? Or I don't know whether you wrote it or Ambrose, that wonderful article about the Hispanic community and the fears. Was that yours or was that Ambrose? But anyway, it was great because going to people in the community who are documented and comfortable, and having them be the liaison to other people is real, to people who are afraid and undocumented is really, I think, the best way to get access.
Ambrose actually wrote that piece, and I'm going to also suggest you might want to talk to Maria at Maria's Restaurant, because she is now a citizen, and I think she'll talk more openly. She's always been willing to talk to us pretty openly, so she might be a great resource because she certainly has tentacles into that community. And also there's a resource at the school who's been working with trying to involve more parents from Latino families to be involved with the school, with the overall school population. And I think they've had some pretty good success there. So it might be worth talking to Brian Dolger there to put you in touch with her and see what could be done.
Great idea, thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah. And then obviously in terms of our focus groups, if we can't reach into the Hispanic community with our focus groups, we're not getting the job done right.
And maybe we can reach them well. They're family oriented. And maybe if we work a lot with the kids in the school, by the way, the school has a wellness group now in their faculty. So, and they may be willing to work with us on that.
Remember, we had Mr. Montalvo
Yes.
in our, one of our library programs?
We
and
did,
He
we did.
mentioned in that article.
Yes, he was.
He and his
Excellent.
family would be great to talk with,
Yes.
maybe.
Yeah, including his wife.
Yeah.
I think she's on the board, isn't she?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think so.
Yes, yes, yes.
Do you want anything to add about the focus groups?
The focus, oh, well, Meg and Jim both posted on SharePoint the list of groups that we identified. And Jim, I'll just go over, because I think your piece on how to go about this was great, because I love the categories that you chose. You had 1, physical health and access to care, which is what you were just talking about, the doctors, the movement of, what we've called a health care desert. If things move more towards Riverhead, where do we get services from? Social well-being, which is, about your community, sense of community and events and family and your feeling of connectedness. And then safety and environment, which, we think Shelter Island is such a safe place. It doesn't occur to you that there are many aspects of safety and they impact.
talking about the bicycles.
Yeah. And so this is an important area to examine with our questions. Economic stability. I know Natasha spoke about, being interested in working on food insecurity. And I think we underestimate that in our community and the impact of it.
Especially during the winter months.
Then you have your,
Past.
yeah.
Right?
Then you have mental health and well-being on here, Jim, and that, is much more of a clinical kind of determination, but also something that, we would want to look at how to provide better services for. And community engagement and leadership. I love that you included that, because that sense of civic engagement is so important. And, it's how we got here to being part of the town structure. So those, I think, are good areas to be working on. And I guess we want to come up with questions. Imagine what it would be to attend a focus group meeting as a member of the Legion, former veteran. What are your concerns? How do you want to hear? How do you want to be approached? What are the questions that are going to elicit the most important things for you? So we have to kind of think about them.
And we probably
Wow.
want some general questions and a couple of general questions and a couple of specific questions. And that's how we would want to put it all together.
Things, just as you bring up the veterans, so many young people that served in the Middle East and Afghanistan, and a lot of these young guys are now married with children or about to be married. That going to the Thynet Ranch, a lot of them have benefited tremendously. They've opened up for the first time. It's changed their lives. You can hear it in the speeches that they give on Memorial Day or on Veterans Day, saying very sensitive things and disclosing to hundreds of people personal issues that they've brought home and in terms of post-traumatic stress, and sharing that with people. I think it's worked very, very well. It's a concentrated 4-day effort in New Mexico, but it does force you. It changed me a little bit. I think the people, when I came back the first time I went to, said, geez, Jim, it seemed like it changed a little bit. And I never, it's 50 years since I've been a non, it's a long, long time ago, but I probably came home with some baggage I never really dealt with much. It's healthy. Getting people to open up is the first step. And you see that all the time in your grievance groups that you run in the summer, without the two of you successfully running this, I think 3 years now, right? Or 4?
4
4
and
years.
some of the years.
You've helped
two groups.
dozens and dozens of people regain a certain sense of worth and that life is worth living and that, the future can be bright. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to just settle in on this tragedy in your life and this loss, and I think it's helped a lot of people. I see positive feedback, so,
Well, we'll be doing it again this summer,
yeah.
for sure.
But brings me to this kind of, well, bear with me for a second. Natasha actually brought this up in a conversation where she said, how does the committee see itself, its attention weighted in these different areas? Meaning physical health, mental health, engagement. We want to cover everything, but we also want to be clear, and Nancy brought this up in the meeting with John Morse, is that we want to be clear that we're not providing services except in these few.
Yeah, I mean, the bereavement group is really the only
That's
thing
correct.
that
But we want to connect people
Correct.
with things like Dinert Ranch, or with
Awareness.
your
Awareness.
group that does grieving in West Hampton Bays, right? Yeah. So we want to facilitate connections. And Nancy's point, which is what I just had in my notes for this topic, is to be clear with the community that this committee is not going to solve all the problems.
Right.
We're going to look at what the current gaps are to try to help connect people better with what will be of service to
I think it's education, awareness,
education and awareness.
education, and hopefully some referrals, to get where to get help. Those are the three things.
And gather the community around important.
Correct.
Well, isn't that a nice segue to our next topic, which
There
is
you
the social worker? Bonnie, we couldn't have planned it better.
You guys are the master of segues today. Actually.
We've been working together a long time.
And Jeff,
Bonnie and Clyde, right?
Bonnie and Clyde, that's it.
Clyde,
You're gonna have to go back mine now.
It's all right.
All right,
So is there an update on the process?
well, I think we should hear from,
Well, Alice can stay on until we can find something more permanent, so she's continuing to do what she's been doing. She'll be back out here in the summer, once the school year ends, she'll be back out here full time. But what we're doing is we're working on finding a space. The problem is space for the social worker to work out is challenging because we're using the library, but now the library is kind of in upheaval, so that space is no longer available. So we're trying to make sure that there's a space where everyone feels comfortable coming and using that zone. So that's obviously a challenge when we're always so limited as a town in functional
yeah,
spaces.
the medical center seems to me that, I don't know what
Yeah,
the pitfall is in the medical, Lori, what do you think?
I think it's a wonderful place and I think he still has room available. And I
thought
don't,
so
know why
too.
I don't know why it didn't go through. Maybe it was Stony
I
Brook.
never got a grips on why that didn't go through either. I
Yeah.
really didn't. I thought they were receptive to it. I thought he was open to it. It's a natural way, because you're in a medical building where, he can refer.
Right, of course, referrals.
Sure, I
yes.
mean, you're working together with the physical and the mental health issues and the complications of physical health problems, or mental health problems that lead to physical problems. It works both ways. The mind-body relationship. It's,
Why don't, yeah,
And it's still an option, but it's tricky with the current situation because Ala's not here all the time.
Yeah.
So with the medical center, you kind of want to have a designated day that people know that it's there. So until we can kind of settle down the employment and the funding and such,
Right.
it's a little up in the air at the moment. But
Okay.
that's not
I mean,
off the table.
ideally, we get
definitely-
somebody that lives in the area, if not on the island, very close to the island, and is willing to, whatever number of days that we finally get approval for, whether it's 1 day, 2, 3 days, whatever it is. Ideally, obviously, this committee was asking for a full-time social worker. I do realize that money is as tight as it's ever been. I talked about that. I've recognized that for the last 3 months. I haven't been on the
We're
board.
looking for additional grant funding too, to see
Yes.
if we can help.
And that seems to be a realistic way to go, and it's a challenge for us, so we need to pitch in here, and overturn every stone, trying to find a pot of money which if the town set aside X number of thousands of dollars, that we could match that rather than have 2 days a week, and have 4 days a week, you're almost having a full-time type of person. How would that benefit us? Of course, once you hire full-time people, there are other benefits that kick in, and the health insurance and all those other things. It's not just going from 2 to 5 days a week, because it does impact a lot of things. It's not just 2.5 times of what the person makes in 2 days. It's other benefits that that person now enjoys.
What was the grant that Lucille was talking about? Was it Lucille?
Back in my,
Yeah,
but I think Lucille.
Yeah,
Significant,
Yeah.
significant grant.
Maybe it was Lucille who was talking,
I think it was
Lucille
Lucille.
Bridgers, okay.
Yes.
yeah.
Thank you, because I thought it was Lori, but.
Yeah, I have it in my notes, but I brought the wrong notebook,
Yeah.
so I'll email it to Amber.
Okay.
But we have looked at other options too, like shared services with the school or shared services with other
And that-
municipalities or entities. So we're looking at all of our options to
Yeah.
try to find the best fit for us at the moment.
In an ideal world,
Hopefully evolve and become more robust over time.
yeah, they're chomping at some financial issues at school this year, more than in the past. This kind of, everybody is. The finances are tough, so I think we have to appreciate that. But a natural thing would be a 2-3 split, or 3-2 split, depending on which way you go. You would have a full-time social worker shared duly by the school and by the town. And there's so many advantages of having that, because you can hear firsthand from pre-K through 12 and get a real fix from faculty and staff and things like that. You get feedback from Lori, from the senior center, from her end. You have the town reaching out to, and this committee reaching out and identifying other needs and groups of people that do need special help. To me, it's a perfect marriage. The thing is, we've got to fund the funding. So I think it's incumbent upon us to help with looking into that, and hopefully pleading with you guys to sit down with the superintendent, with Dr. Dolger, and trying to convince him, what would he be willing to do?
We've had that conversation.
Okay.
So we had a meeting with Dr. Dolder from the school, with Ala, with, Chief, with a whole bunch of people,
All right.
trying to sort out how to solve this issue. And so we did talk about shared services. There's pros and cons to all of it. A lot of the work that Ala does, she does on the weekends, because that's when people are available, they're not at work, they're more accessible. So if you have a shared service with the school, it's really challenging to say, maybe you come out here a distance to work with the school, but now we want you to come out on weekends too, because that's when you can serve the greater island community better, but during the week, you're at the school. So it's really hard to find schedule and flexibility that's gonna work like that. And then you also have the possible complication of students and parents both needing services. The same person shouldn't really be providing services to both people. You probably need independent help for each. So there's pros and cons to all of it. So we're trying to weigh all the options. So we have had meetings with the school, with them. We have had meetings with, I've been talking to some of the hospitals on Southport to see what services they have, if there's a shared service that we could use. I mean, we partner with Stony Brook for the EMT. And we're like, are there other things like that maybe we could take advantage of? So we're looking into all of it. And we're trying to come up with what is gonna serve the community the best.
I'm going to make 2 suggestions. We have a new friend, Mr. Morse, who is a sociologist, PhD, who writes a lot of grants, and he knows how to get money for communities. He told us that during one of our meetings. The other thing I've been pushing at too, is they have a mental health program over in Greenport. Why can they not use Shelter Island as a place for screening, or if they're doing like family therapy, or if they need to assess kids, use us as the guinea pig. It's a service for them, it's a service for us that we could share. I did talk to Dr. Slotkin. He apparently does education advisement for Stony Brook, and he was very willing to look into this. Oh,
Is he at a
Looks like-
Greenport?
what's that? I'm sorry.
He's at a Greenport?
He's in Southold.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You guys looked at what the other towns on the East End do? Sure.
They don't have social workers. They'll have caseworkers, or they have sort of like a human services department that just does referrals. They just send you to different entities.
I mean, we're unique. I mean, it's wonderful
We
that
are
we
unique
have
in
that,
that
but we are,
sense,
I mean, it's great that we have the concept of a social worker, but it's also more necessary because people from the Forks don't want to come here.
Right.
And so we are isolated and we need it.
Yeah, it's definitely a need,
Yeah.
you know.
Almost every service that you need here, you have to leave the island.
Right.
I mean, every service,
Is there any merit to trying to private fundraise for this? I mean, do we have a sense of like, what's the target number? And could we privately fundraise half of it? I mean, I just don't know what the,
Part of it, we can work on that. Part of it is really determining really how many hours are needed, and they fluctuate, you know, so you don't need as many hours in the winter, we need more hours in the summer, we just have more people, there's just more need. So we do have Ala kind of putting together a list of, you know, how many hours she spends on, you know, average, what she basically could add to the caseload, what she would like to be able to do in addition to what she's doing, so that we can get a better understanding of exactly what the job description and the need really is, so.
And the problem with the social work, the problem with this is that nobody thinks it's important until they need it.
Well, Jim Reed had asked me to sit down with Lucille at the annual report from the social worker.
Yeah.
So we had them starting in 2013, before Lucille became the town part-time social work for the town of Shelter Island. And I submitted all those. I think we had like 6 years of reports. And it's important to see where the needs are and how much time is required and how it's changing and evolving. And I know she's very, very, very busy, but to document this, the need is important. At the same time, when you have a person that only seeks part-time employment because of other things that she's doing, and that's in her situation, she didn't want to become even if it was offered, I think she was taking the job on because it was limited to a part-time position. And now you're changing that scope, so you really need somebody that's wanting to make that investment of, if it is a shared service with another town or with the school or whatever, a 5-day commitment to the job.
No, you're absolutely right. It's two very different types of.
And highly unlikely that it would be a Saturday and Sunday. You know, that
Correct.
worked in particular for Ala, but on a normal basis, a
Correct.
social worker
Absolutely.
would work Monday to Friday.
Absolutely,
Right.
absolutely.
And the fact that
some
she's also-
evening hours, so she could
Yeah,
capture
but it's
people.
unlikely,
Right, unlikely, yeah.
and not the norm to work on a Saturday and Sunday or have to
Just,
come
you know,
out here.
like some on-call.
Yeah, you could have to have
on
on-call, but yeah,
calls, or have
Yeah.
a moment, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
You get some of that. So it's evolving. We are actively working on it. We're looking at all the options. We have been meeting with people. We're trying to sort it out.
Can I just go back to that for a second? Would it behoove us to do, you're here, obviously, to do a formal presentation to the board of need, or no, just you're here, you're the liaison, you know it.
We got it.
You got it, okay.
Yeah, it's just kind of getting all the puzzle pieces to fit
Gotcha.
together correctly.
Okay.
Well, it's gonna say, show me the money.
Well, it's just the plate that everything sits on, every service, every committee, any volunteer, it's the plate that everything sits on in this community.
Absolutely, yeah.
And Amber, I remember after the forum, you asked me how many hours do you need, and I said, about 35.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess it's important to, when you get this analysis finished, figure out whether it's the money that's prohibitive, or is it the space, or
Yeah.
the personnel, like what are we fighting?
At the moment, it's a little bit of all of it,
Uh-huh.
but yes, yeah. We're gonna get
Well, we're here to help if we can,
yes.
in any way.
Always when you have to justify a position, I hear the same argument about police. We need 10 cops on a shelter, and there's no crime at it. But then when you read the reporter and you see some of the reaction of the numbers of domestic violence, the number of this, that, and the other things that our police officers are involved with on a weekly basis, it's not what it was 25 years ago. It's getting more involved. The cases are getting, there are guns, there are knives, there are threats. This is, it's maybe not the Bronx or, you know, or one of the boroughs in the city where there might be a crime rate that's much, much higher, but it is changing. And I think the same thing is true with the mental health issues. They're not going away. They're getting more involved. And we see that in the newspaper. If you pick up the newspaper every day, that, and it's not just the city, it's Nassau, it's Suffolk County, it's the East End. There are lots of people out there in need of help and assistance. They have nowhere to turn, or they don't know where to turn. You know, there's no preventative programs. There are no identification. There's no proper treatment, no follow through.
It's gonna get worse
It's
because
getting worse.
because funding is drying up and people are terrified about Medicaid. And it's just going to get worse. It's
It
not
is.
getting better.
As people's anxiety
Yeah.
increases, so does their mental health.
Yeah.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes, and people are very scared,
They are.
so. Okay,
And they have to wait 6 months to get an appointment with a psychiatrist. And there are only 2 child psychiatrists within our area right now. And there are no,
Sometimes it's longer than that.
and do you know there are no social workers in Greenport Hospital? They use nurses.
are they psychiatric nurses or are they nurses?
There are RNs that are.
RNs, they're not
doing-
psychiatric nurses.
They're not
Right.
psych.
Okay.
I
Although
remember
they
as a
probably
board,
are.
we went over to Greenport Hospital. You remember the visit we had went up to the psych ward? And I forget exactly what the statistics are on drug treatment, but we're talking days, not weeks or months. We're talking about days. Was there a miracle worker in that hospital that you can take somebody in 3 or 4 or 5 days and turn their lives around? You know, I mean, it just doesn't work that way. I mean, drug treatment programs have to be weeks and months of, you know, this doesn't just go away and needs follow-up. I don't see that there. It's
4 or
just,
5 days is about this.
that's it,
Yeah, it's
that's
all
it,
about money.
that's
That's
it.
all it's about. It's
That's
not
it.
about health.
Well, Medicare will only give you 27 days and then you have to get out.
It's all about the insurance.
Yeah,
Well, maybe there's some education role we can play. Maybe we have a library program on what does a social worker do? You know, just to raise some community awareness of the need for it so that it becomes more of all of our problem. It's not just the problem of whomever is suffering right
So I
now.
think people don't realize the gamut that our social workers. deal
Again,
with.
if you don't need it, you're not interested.
Yeah.
So.
What happens to
We'll do
you?
it on Zoom. Get a lot of people to come.
But it's not like the problem is with the awareness of the need, right? Like
Yeah,
other
we know the
issues.
need, we're trying to figure out how to make it happen. It's the.
but I think what Nancy just said is a little bit of a misnomer, because the mental health issue is everybody's problem. Even if your family considers them fairly healthy, you know what? What about your neighbors? What person?
I guess what I'm saying, I'm sorry, Jim, I guess what I'm saying is that when you're looking at money and you're
Yeah.
looking at a budget,
Correct,
in a place like this island,
yes.
everybody's gonna care about water and everybody's gonna care about their taxes and everybody's gonna, you know, there are issues that
Yeah.
everybody thinks are more important than mental health issues until it becomes their problem.
Right.
And that's really what I meant.
Yeah.
And.
But the realization is, it's everybody's problem. It
course it
is
is.
everybody's.
We know that.
Crime is everybody's problem.
We
Drug
know that.
addiction
Yes.
is everybody, even if you don't have drug addiction, it's around you. It's here. So you have to make this investment. If in fact, you don't wait for it to come into your house for it to become an issue. You're a community. We gotta sell people on the fact that we give a crap about people that we live with, our neighbors, the kids in school. Even though I'm a senior, care about the kids in school, want them to get a good education. You want to make sure that their mental health needs are being met, you know?
Biggest challenge.
Well, that's the sell, Jim, that's the sell.
That's the sell.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
it.
because that's
Yeah,
not the
that's
way the
what
world
makes-
is.
That's what makes us different. You know, I came from a little coral place where that was strongly built in, school community. Big thing. You know, the house was where that school was. Here, you know, we have to have that same feeling. We're together, we're one community. Even though we're subdivided into little Hay Beach stuff and Silver Beach stuff.
We're
and
working on it.
Yeah,
Because I think people,
One
really-
island.
when you have conversations with people, they respond. Of course that's important. I really, I would give to that, or I would support that. And, so maybe if we communicate a little bit better.
Yeah.
We can,
Well,
we're
April, May
starting.
focus.
Yeah, we're starting.
Of
We're
just
starting with
what
the
the
focus, the
schools
focus
work
groups will
Yeah.
really put this issue into the forefront.
And I also think that's why the annual report is very important, because I'm getting firsthand knowledge, person has sat in the position, even part-time, what the demands of that position are, what kinds of problems are you seeing? You have to, we're not telling names, but we're painting a picture of the mental health community, that we're meeting this much of the needs when we need to meet this much of the needs.
Okay, I mean, Bonnie, you have old business, but I think we've been.
I think that's.
Talking about it.
I think I just kind of, I always see that on agendas and I think, what?
You just put Jim next to old, that's old business.
The whole thing's all.
The new
But
business,
the new
for people.
business, I did want to just jump quickly for what Lori had talked about, Bob Lipsight's book. I started reading it. It's fabulous. And I know, Laura, you've said you really want to do something around bullying and teen, social suffering. And I love that idea, and I just don't want it to get dropped off of what we talk about, so.
Yeah, I have 5 kids reading it right now because I want their feedback. And I gave 2 copies to the teachers, the guidance people at the school. And I've talked to Bob. Bob would love to talk to the kids.
Oh,
And I
great.
think that we need to identify some topics within that book to open up discussion to get the kids. And I'm thinking of maybe like middle school and upper school, not the little guys yet. But and then maybe even offering it to parents to just to get a dialogue going, because I think Bob really hit it on that book.
Yeah, it's excellent.
All right, it's good,
Great.
good point. Any new business?
Any other new business?
Just, I think it would be good before the next meeting to come up with a date for the vigil in August.
Oh, good idea.
And also to perhaps have some conversation. I did reach out to Anthony Rando on my own about additional programming with the opioid funds, but perhaps it should come from here. And he was willing to meet with me to discuss some options of what to do with some of those funds. So that could be something coming up that
Let's just look and see what day of the week August 31st is.
I think it's a Sunday, and I don't think,
Yeah, no, it's-
I think it's
it's
late.
Saturday.
That's when we moved, because it
No,
was
we moved it, yeah.
Saturday, so we moved it to the
Yeah.
28th, I think.
Yeah. Yeah,
I would
so
think of Thursday, or is that Labor Day?
Thursday.
Thursday.
Thursday is the 28th would,
Thursday, the 28th.
yeah, you want to stay away from Fridays, you want to, and
Yeah.
obviously weekends. So I think we're either going to offer on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday,
Thursday.
We did Thursday last year,
Thursday,
and that was
yeah.
when we
Yeah.
got such a great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would think the 28th is the good day.
And you know what? Let's invite our friends on the North and the South Fork to come on over and see what we're doing,
Okay?
you know?
Especially the North Fork, I think there's a need there.
I mentioned there was a big arrest 2 weeks ago
Yeah.
in Greenport. Quite a significant amount of drugs in the US, so alive and well.
But maybe you can make that pitch to Southold and Riverhead that we're having this thing, and invite somebody from their town board or something, just a representative. Yeah, might be nice to have them there.
And everybody's aware of the date of our next meeting with John Morse.
Mhm.
It's
Monday.
Monday at 11 a.m.
Yes.
We're green. No.
And I'll send a Zoom round Sunday night. Zoom link.
Yeah, and have pizza tonight, because $5 for every pizza is going to Strong Point. So when we talk about our veterans and taking care of our veterans, $5 for every pizza goes tonight, so Pizza Friday, right?
At Slice.
At Slice,
Every Friday or this?
just this Friday.
Friday.
This
Yeah,
Friday.
There's
As in
a
today.
marathon tomorrow. Yeah, so tonight.
Oh, okay.
Tonight eat pizza.
Tonight pizza.
It seems to be the thing with pizzerias, though. I notice in the city and that anytime they're doing a fundraiser, that's a great idea, because especially during Lent,
Who doesn't eat pizza
Friday,
on
it's-
Friday?
can't get a sausage pie, that's all.
The floor to any questions? I know Natasha and I spoke on the phone, but maybe, do you want to share a little, Natasha, about what you're thinking in terms of participating going forward, or? Oh, no, it's okay. I just wanted to see if, I want to include you. We had this wonderful conversation. You've been attending so well. Great. So do you want to just say quickly to share with the committee members just what, your thoughts are about the work and what you might want to? Sorry to put you on, the spot, but there's no spot here.
It's kind of wherever the need is greatest. And, I'm certainly happy to try to help with things like this outreach survey you're doing. I guess the perspective I have is that we also need to survey the providers. So whether that's the food pantry or CAST or the Lions Club, there's so many different providers.
On the list.
All on the list.
Have you seen our list?
I don't think I have. Some
Okay, we want to
And
send
the
that.
data, when you talk about needing data, there's quite a bit of data. If you went to the Lions, I'm sure they could say how many people got cards for the IGA in the last month, for example. I mean, that's a different kind of data than what you get from the census, but it's very real. Or if you went to Father Peter, he could tell you, how many people, whatever it is that he hands out.
Yeah.
And, how many people are having trouble paying their electric bill? How many people are having trouble?
Right.
The more we can get, that kind of data as well, because I think that will.
And when you hear the statistics, it's alarming. And all the fundraisers that we've gone to, and usually during the summertime, somebody's backyard, and you start with the statistics, wow, it knocks you over. We're not talking 3%, 5%, 11%. We're talking about major numbers.
A lot of
And-
people having problems, paying their cozy bill, and this is, just what you're saying.
That's a good point, excellent point.
Well, it's just getting it from, you get it from the people with the needs, but you also get it, you're just kind of triangulating and putting it all together, right? And then at some point, you see where there might be a big missing void, which we may or may not have the funding to fix, but that's where private funding comes in. And I do think
Right.
that if it's properly presented, I think there are people on the island who could help fund some of this. So that's another thing that I'm interested in trying to figure out is,
Good.
I'm not a grant writer, but I am somebody who can raise funds privately.
Have you, are you interested in being on the part of the Monday meet? Have you talked about being part of the?
Subcommittee, just
Yeah.
helping however needs
Yeah.
to be helped.
Yeah.
We would be happy to include you in these meetings, planning the needs assessment, if that's
Yeah, if
something.
that would be helpful.
Okay,
Yeah.
and join as you can. That's how we're running them, because his time is pretty short, so we go with what he has available, and then whoever can
Have
come.
someone with that kind of expertise,
Yeah.
that's so great, yeah.
So we'll put you on the list and come as you can,
Happy to
and
help.
we'll share notes with
for-
everyone.
For Julie, could you just identify yourself?
Yeah, Natasha Stowe, STOWE.
Thank you, Natasha.
Does anybody have any other business? Anything that anybody wants to say? Jim?
Oh, ma'am. No, listen. I've overstepped my bounds already.
Okay, I think we're adjourned.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, excuse me.
Make
Second,
that motion.
second, I motion.
Second.
Oh,
All in
yes.
favor?
I.
We have to vote?